Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, I've got a story that's been messing with my head ever since it happened, a real-life nightmare I can't shake. This isn't some made-up creepypasta. This is something I lived through. And trust me, it's freaky as hell. We're diving into the night my house turned into something straight out of a horror movie, and I'm still not sure what was under my bed. If you're into real spooky stuff, you're gonna want to stick around for this one. Before we get started, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring that bell so you don't miss any of these crazy stories. I'm counting on you guys to keep this channel alive, so let's get those vibes going. All right, deep breath. Here's what went down that night. Story 1. The stalker's calls. I've never been the type to believe in ghosts or any of that paranormal crap, honestly. I'd laugh at people who swore their house was haunted. But last summer, I spent a day at my aunt's old place to help clear it out after she passed. And I can't explain what happened there. It's this crumbling 2-story house on the edge of town, surrounded by overgrown weeds and trees that look like they're clawing at the sky. The paint's peeling off in strips, leaving the wood underneath all gray and rotted, and the windows are these cloudy, warped panes that make it feel like the house is staring at you. The front porch creaks under every step, and the air around it smells damp, like wet earth and something sour I couldn't place. I got there around noon, figuring I'd be in and out in a few hours, just grab some boxes, lock up, and go. The second I walked through the door, though it felt wrong, like the house didn't want me there. The air inside was thick, almost heavy, and it was so quiet I could hear my own breathing echoing off the walls. I brushed it off as me being tired or creeped out by the whole dead ant thing. But man, I should have listened to that gut feeling. It started small, just little stuff that made me second guess myself. I was in the living room, sorting through stacks of yellowed newspapers, when I heard this faint tapping like fingernails on glass coming from the window behind me. I turned around fast, expecting a branch or something, but there was nothing outside, just that hazy daylight filtering through the dirty panes. The tapping stopped as soon as I looked, and I told myself it was the house settling, or whatever old places do. But then it happened again, sharper this time. From a different window upstairs, I could hear it through the ceiling. Tap, tap, slow and deliberate. My stomach dropped, and I stood there, frozen, waiting for it to stop. It didn't. I grabbed my phone to record it, thinking I'd prove it was just some dumb explanation. But the second I hit record, it went dead silent. I checked the windows after, and there wasn't a damn thing touching them. No trees close enough, no wind, nothing. That's when I started feeling it like the house was messing with me, testing me, and I wasn't alone in there. I tried to shake it off and keep working, figuring I was just psyching myself out. The living room was cluttered with old furniture stuff like a sagging couch with faded floral fabric and a wooden coffee table covered in dust so thick it looked like snow. I moved upstairs to the hallway, where the air felt even heavier, like it was pressing down on my chest. The walls up there were lined with these faded, peeling wallpaper strips, all curling at the edges like dead skin, and the floorboards groaned with every step I took. There was this one door at the end of the hall, painted black and chipped, that I hadn't noticed before. It didn't match the rest of the house, like it had been added later. I don't know why, but I couldn't stop staring at it. It felt like it was pulling me in. I grabbed a box from the nearest room to distract myself, but then I heard it a low hum, like someone humming a tune, coming from behind that black door. It wasn't loud, but it hit me right in the gut, and my hands started shaking. I told myself it was the pipes or something, but pipes don't hum melodies, you know. I stood there, staring at that door, trying to decide if I should open it or just get the hell out. The humming got a little louder, and I swear it sounded like a voice, all warped and muffled, like it was underwater. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, and I kept thinking, this isn't real, this isn't real, but it wouldn't stop. I took a step closer, just to prove to myself I wasn't losing it, and the floorboard under me creaked so loud it echoed down the hall. The humming cut off instantly, like someone flipped a switch, and for a second, it was dead quiet again. Then I heard a thud, like something heavy hitting the floor right behind that black door. It wasn't a random noise. It felt deliberate, like whatever was in there knew I was listening. My legs felt weak, and I backed up, tripping over a box and nearly falling. I couldn't tell if I was more scared or pissed off at myself for being scared, but either way, I wasn't about to open that door. Not yet. I just stood there, breathing hard, waiting for whatever was next. I decided to ignore the door and focus on getting stuff done. I wasn't about to let some creepy house run me off that quick. I went into my aunt's old bedroom instead, figuring I'd grab her clothes and call it a day. The room was a mess. A rusty metal bed frame with a stained mattress, a cracked mirror leaning against the wall, and this musty smell that made my nose itch. The curtains were these thick, moth-eaten things, barely letting any light in, so the whole place felt like a cave. I started shoving shirts into a trash bag, trying to keep my mind busy, when I noticed the temperature drop like fast. 1 second it was stuffy and warm. The next, my breath was fogging up in front of me. I stopped, bag in hand, and looked around, half expecting to see frost on the walls or something crazy. Nothing looked different, but the cold was biting into my fingers, and I could feel goosebumps crawling up my arms. Then, out of nowhere, the mirror started fogging up too, like someone was breathing on it from the other side. I dropped the bag and just stared at that mirror, my heart jackhammering in my chest. The fog spread slow, forming these smudgy streaks, and I couldn't move. I was glued to the spot, watching it happen. Then, right in the middle of the glass, something scratched out as she fogged uneven lines that looked like a messed up letter P. My name's Paul, and seeing that made my stomach twist so hard I thought I'd puke. I didn't touch the mirror, didn't breathe on it, nothing. So how the hell was that happening? I stumbled back, my foot catching on the bed frame, and the metal screeched against the floor. The sound snapped me out of it, and I grabbed my phone to take a picture, hands shaking so bad I could barely hold it steady. By the time I got the camera up, the P was gone, and the mirror was clear again, like it had never happened. But I know what I saw, and that cold it lingered, sinking into my bone. Whatever was in that house, it knew me, and it was screwing with me in ways I couldn't explain. I was done with that room. I couldn't stay in there after the mirror thing. I grabbed the bag of clothes and bolted back to the hallway, my footsteps sounding way too loud in that dead silence. The black door was still there, looming at the end like it was waiting for me to slip up and get closer. I avoided looking at it, focusing on the stairs instead. But then I heard this scratching like nails dragging on wood coming from the walls around me. It wasn't loud, but it was everywhere, moving up and down the hallway, like something was pacing inside the plaster. I stopped, gripping the bag so tight my knuckles hurt, and tried to tell myself it was mice or something normal. But the rhythm was off. It wasn't random. It was slow, intentional, like someone dragging their hand just to mess with me. My mouth went dry, and I felt this prickling on the back of my neck, like eyes were boring into me from somewhere I couldn't see. I glanced at the black door, and I swear it looked darker, like the paint was soaking up the light. I made it to the stairs, practically tripping over myself to get down. But halfway there, the lights flickered, all of them, even the ones that weren't plugged in. The bulbs buzzed and popped, throwing shadows all over the walls, and I froze, one hand on the banister. The scratching stopped, and for a split second, I thought maybe it was over. Then I heard footsteps, heavy, uneven ones, coming from upstairs, right where I'd just been. They weren't mine. I was standing still, and they were too slow, too deliberate, like someone dragging their feet. My chest tightened, and I whipped around, staring up the stairwell. But there was nothing there, just that empty hallway and the black door, cracked open an inch now. I hadn't touched it, hadn't gone near it, but there it was, ajar, like something had nudged it just enough to let me know it couldn't. My legs were shaking, and I wanted to scream, but my voice was stuck in my throat. Whatever was up there, it was moving, and it was coming closer. I bolted down the rest of the stairs, my shoes slamming against the wood so hard I thought I'd crash through. The footsteps upstairs kept coming thump, 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 slow and steady, like they didn't care I was running. I hit the bottom and spun around, staring up at the landing, waiting for something to show itself, but it was just shadows flickering from those dying lights. The living room stretched out in front of me, all dark corners and that saggy furniture, and I realized I'd left my keys on the coffee table. No way was I leaving without them. I wasn't about to get stuck here, so I lunged for the table, my hands shaking as I fumbled through the dust. That's when I noticed the air. It was thick again, but now it stank, like rotting meat mixed with something sweet and sickening. My stomach churned, and I gagged, covering my nose with my sleeve, but it didn't help. The smell was coming from everywhere, seeping out of the walls, the floor, like the house itself was rotting alive around me. I snatched the keys, and right then, the footsteps stopped, dead silent, like whatever it was had decided to wait. I turned to the front door, ready to haul ass out of there, but then I saw the doorknob was turning. Not fast, not like someone was trying to get in, but slow, creaking back and forth like a kid playing with it. I froze, keys cutting into my palm, watching that brass knob twist one way, then the other, all on its own. My brain screamed at me to move, but my legs wouldn't listen. I was stuck, staring, waiting for the door to fly open. It didn't. Instead, this low laugh started up, soft and raspy, like it was coming from the other side of the wood. It wasn't human, not really. It sounded wet, like someone choking on their own spit, and it made my skin crawl. I backed up, bumping into the couch, and the laugh got louder, bouncing off the walls until it felt like it was inside my head. The knob stopped moving, but the laughing didn't. It just kept going, filling the room, and I swear I felt hot breath on my neck. Even though nothing was there, I was losing it, and the house knew it. I couldn't take it anymore. That laugh was drilling into me, and I just snapped. I yelled, "Shut up!" as loud as I could, my voice cracking like a scared kid. And for a second, it worked. The laughing stopped, and the house went quiet again. My ears were ringing, and I was panting, sweat dripping down my face, even though it was freezing in there. I looked around, half expecting something to jump out, but it was just me and that damn furniture, all still and silent like nothing had happened. The doorknob wasn't moving anymore either, and I thought maybe I'd scared it off, whatever it was. I took a shaky step toward the door, keys still clenched in my fist, telling myself I was almost out, almost free. But then the floor creaked behind me, not a little groan, but a loud, splintering crack, like something heavy had just shifted. I whipped around, and the coffee table, it was tilted, one leg bent under like it had been stomped on. No way! That just happened on its own, and I hadn't touched it. My throat closed up, and I felt this wave of panic hit me hard. I wasn't alone, and whatever was here was done playing subtle. I turned back to the door and yanked it open, desperate to get out. But the second I did, the air outside hit me like a slapstick, warm and stinking of that same rot I'd smelled inside. It didn't make sense. It had been cool and clear when I got here, but now it was like the house was bleeding its stench into the yard. I stumbled onto the porch, and that's when I heard it, a whisper, sharp and close, right in my ear. Paul, my name, clear as day, hissed out like a snake. I spun around, swinging my fist at nothing, but there wasn't a soul there, just the open doorway and that black hole of a house staring back at me. The whisper came again, Paul, from inside this time, and I saw something move, a shadow, tall and crooked, sliding across the living room wall. It wasn't a person, not with how it bent and stretched, but it was there, and it was watching me. My legs finally kicked in, and I ran for my car, slipping on the overgrown grass, my heart slamming so hard I thought it'd burst. I didn't look back. I couldn't, but I felt it, that thing, lingering at the edge of the porch, waiting. I made it to my car, fumbling with the keys like an idiot, dropping them twice before I got the door open. My hands were slick with sweat, and I could still hear that whisper, Paul, echoing in my head. Even with the engine roaring to life, I slammed the gas, tires kicking up dirt as I peeled out of the driveway, and I didn't stop until I hit the main road. The house shrank in my rearview mirror, just a hunched, ugly shape swallowed by the trees. But I swear I saw something in the upstairs window, that black doors room, maybe watching me go. My chest was heaving, and I kept muttering to myself, it's over, like that'd make it true. The smell of rot was still stuck in my nose, clinging to my clothes, and my skin felt itchy, like something had crawled all over me. I blasted the heat, trying to shake the chill, but it wouldn't go away. It was in me now. That house is cold, like it had marked me. I kept driving, eyes flicking to the mirrors, half expecting to see that shadow lurching down the road after me. Nothing was there, but I didn't feel safe, not even close. When I got home, I locked every door, checked every window, and sat on my couch with all the lights on, still shaking. I couldn't stop replaying it, the tapping, the humming, that pee on the mirror, the footsteps, the laugh, that shadow. It all happened in a few hours, but it felt like days, like the house had stretched time just to screw with me. I called my cousin later, told him I'd left the boxers and wasn't going back. Screw the stuff. It wasn't worth it. He laughed, said I was overreacting, but he didn't hear that whisper, didn't see that table buckle under nothing. I kept my phone on, scrolling through random crap to stay awake, because every time I closed my eyes, I saw that black door cracked open, waiting. The weirdest part, my keys, they've got this little scratch on them now, a jagged P, like the one on the mirror. I didn't do it, and they were fine when I got there. I don't know what that house was, but it knew me, and it left something behind I can't shake. I haven't slept right since that day, not a full night. Anyway, every creak in my apartment, every shadow that moves funny, sends me right back to that house, heart racing like I'm still standing in that hallway. I keep the keys in a drawer now, buried under junk, because looking at that scratched P makes me feel sick, like it's still watching me somehow. I tried Googling the place, digging up old records or stories, but there's nothing, just a boring deed from the 50s and some tax stuff. No murders, no ghost tales, nothing to explain what I went through. My cousin went back for the boxers a week later and said it was fine. Just a dusty old house. No weird vibes. I wanted to yell at him, ask if he checked behind that black door. But I didn't. He'd just think I'm nuts. Maybe I am. But I know what I heard, what I saw, and it wasn't my imagination screwing with me. That house was alive, or something in it was, and it latched onto me for those hours like I was its damn plaything. The craziest thing is how it just stopped. No slow fade, no big finale. It was full-on terror 1 second, then nothing the moment I drove off. No whispers in my ear since, no shadows stalking me. Just that scratch on my keys and this gnawing feeling I can't shake. I still smell that rot sometimes, faint, like it's stuck in my head. But my place is clean, no reason for it. I thought about going back, proving to myself it was a one-time fluke. But every time I even picture that sagging porch or those cloudy windows, my stomach knots up and I feel that cold again. It's been months, and I can't explain it. Nobody believes me, and I get why, but I know it happened. That house did something to me, messed with me in ways I can't put into words, and then it let me go, like it got bored. I don't know what it wanted, or why it stopped, and that's the part that keeps me up at night. It's still out there, waiting for someone else, and I'm just glad it's not me anymore, at least. I hope it's not. I keep telling myself it's over, that I got out and that's all that matters, but it doesn't feel finished. Every now and then, I'll catch a whiff of that sweet rotten stink, like it's hiding in my car or my jacket hand. I'll check every corner of my place, expecting to see that shadow again. Nothing's ever there, but it's like the house left a piece of itself with me, a reminder I can't ditch. I don't talk about it much anymore. Friends roll their eyes. Family says I need sleep or a shrink, and maybe they're right. But I've got this little voice in the back of my head, nagging me, saying it wasn't random, that it picked me for a reason. The black door, the whisper, that P, it was personal, and I don't know why. I've driven past the road to the house a couple times since, just testing myself, and I can't even turn down at my hands, lock up on the wheel. It's still standing there, rotting away, and I wonder if it's quiet now, or if it's just waiting for the next sucker to walk in. So yeah, that's my story, take it or leave it. I don't care if you believe me. I lived it, and I'm still trying to figure out how to forget it. The worst part isn't even the fear anymore. It's the not knowing what was it. Why me? And why'd it stop? I've got no answers. Just a scratched up key and a memory that won't quit. If you're ever out that way, near the edge of town with the choked up trees, steer clear of that house. It looks dead, abandoned, harmless, but it's not. It's awake, and it'll know you're there. I don't know what it'll do next time, but I'm not sticking around to find out. I got out, it let me go, and that's where it ends, except it doesn't, not really. I still feel it sometimes, like it's waiting to start up again, and I don't think I'll ever shake that for good. Story 2, the man under the bed. I'm not someone who gets spooked, easy I mean. I've lived alone half my life and never cared about bumps in the night. But last month, my roommate was out of town, and I was just chilling in our old rental house. This beat-up place with creaky floors and windows that rattle when it's windy. It's got this vibe like the walls are stained with years of cigarette smoke, and the paint's chipped so bad you can see layers of ugly colors underneath. The furniture's all secondhand, mismatched stuff, and the lights flicker if you flip the switch too fast. I was sprawled on the couch that night, binging some dumb show, when the doorbell rang out of nowhere, sharp and loud, like someone was leaning on it. It was past midnight, and I wasn't expecting anybody, so I dragged myself up, figuring it was a prank or a delivery guy lost. I peeked through the blinds, but the porch was empty, just the busted lights swinging a little, casting shadows on the cracked boards. I shrugged it off and sat back down, but my gut felt off, like the house was holding its breath with me. 5 minutes later, it rang again, same deal, long and obnoxious. I bolted up this time, annoyed, and checked every window I could reach, front, side. Even the grimy one in the kitchen that barely opens. Nothing. No car in the driveway. No footsteps crunching the gravel outside. Just dead silence after that ring faded out. I started feeling dumb, like maybe the wiring was shot or something. But then came the knocks, 3 hard thumps on the front door, loud enough to shake the frame. My heart jumped, and I grabbed a baseball bat from the closet, creeping up to look again. I saw something move fast, like a shadow darting past the edge of the porch butt. When I yanked the door open, bat raised, it was empty again. The air outside was cold, sharper than it should have been, and it smelled wrong, like damp dirt and something sour. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and stood there, bat in hand, telling myself I was imagining things. But the house felt different after that, like it was awake, and I wasn't as alone as I thought. I tried to chill out after that, telling myself it was just some kids messing around, or my tired brain playing tricks. I turned the TV back on, cranked the volume to drown out the quiet, and sank into the couch. Bat still close by. The house was old, built in the 70s, with these narrow hallways and low ceilings that made it feel claustrophobic even on a good day. The living room had this faded green carpet that smelled like mildew if you got too close, and the walls were covered in cheap wood paneling that warped in spots. I kept glancing at the door, expecting another knock, but it stayed quiet for a while. Too quiet, like the kind of silence that presses on your ears. Then I heard it, a faint scrape, like something dragging across the floor, coming from the hallway behind me. My stomach dropped, and I muted the TV, listening hard. It stopped, then started again slow, deliberate, like nails on wood. I told myself it was the house settling, but it didn't sound random. It had a rhythm, and it was getting closer. I grabbed the bat and stood up, my legs shaky, and faced the hallway. It's this tight little stretch leading to the bedrooms, lined with peeling paint and a single bulb that barely lights anything. The scraping stopped when I turned, but now there was this low hum like a fridge running. But we don't have one back there. My mouth went dry, and I took a step forward, bat raised, trying to see into the shadows. That's when the bulb flickered just once, but enough to make the dark at the end twitch like something moved. I froze, heart pounding so loud I could feel it in my throat, and called out, "Who's there?" My voice sounded weak, swallowed up by the house, and nothing answered, just that hum, steady and low, like it was waiting for me to figure it out. I didn't want to go down there, but I couldn't just sit and wait. Either I had to know what was going on. The air felt heavy now, thicker than before, and I swear it got colder the closer I got to that hallway. Something was off, and the house was starting to feel like it was in on it. I inched down the hallway, bat gripped so tight my hands hurt, every step making the floor groan under me. The hum was louder now, buzzing in my ears, and it was definitely coming from my bedroom at the end. The door was cracked open, even though I'd left it shut. The house has these old doors, heavy wood with chipped white paint, and they stick sometimes, so seeing it ajar made my skin crawl. I stopped a few feet away, peering into the gap, but it was too dark to make anything out, just a sliver of black that seemed to swallow the light from the hall. The scraping started up again, fainter this time, like it was under the floorboards now, right below where I stood. My chest tightened, and I felt this urge to run, but my dumbass kept going. I had to see what was in there. The cold was worse here, seeping through my socks, and my breath came out in little puffs, which made no sense for October. I pushed the door with the bat, slow and careful, and it creaked open, revealing my messy room bed, unmade, clothes on the floor, same as always, but it didn't feel like my room anymore. It felt like something else's. I stepped inside, and the hum cut off like someone hit mute hand. The silence hit me harder than the noise ever did. My bed's this old twin thing, shoved against the wall, under a window with cracked blinds that let in slivers of streetlights. I scanned the room, bat ready, but nothing looked off. No shadows, no movement, just my stuff. Then I heard a rustle, quick and soft, like fabric shifting, coming from under the bed. My heart stopped, and I backed up, staring at that dark space beneath the frame. I'd never checked under there, why would I? But now I couldn't look away. The rustle came again, louder, and I swear I saw the edge of my blanket twitch, like something tugged it from below. My legs locked up, and I stood there, frozen, feeling like an idiot for not bolting right then. The air got so cold my teeth started chattering, and this prickling ran up my spine like whatever was down there knew I was watching. I didn't want to look, but I had two-eye dropped to my knees, bat shaking in my hands, and peeked under the bed. I couldn't breathe right when I looked under. There my chest was all tight, and my eyes were straining to see through the dark. At first, it was just shadows and dust, maybe a sock I'd kicked under months ago. But then I saw it. A shape, long and still, stretched out flat against the floor. My brain didn't want to process it like, no way that's real, but it was there. This pale, bony hand sticking out from the far side, fingers curled like it was grabbing at nothing. I jerked back, smacking my head on the bed frame, and scrambled to my feet, bat slipping in my sweaty grip. The room was spinning, and I kept blinking, thinking maybe I'd imagined it. But then the rustling turned into a slow drag-like, something heavy sliding across the wood. My stomach flipped, and I stumbled toward the door, but I couldn't not look back. That's when I saw it move. The hand twitched, and this long skinny arm started pulling out, slow and jerky, like it was testing how far it could reach. The house felt alive then, like the walls were leaning in, daring me to scream. I didn't scream, I couldn't. My voice was gone, stuck somewhere between panic and disbelief. I just stood there, glued to the spot, watching as more of it came out from under the bed. It wasn't just an arm, it was a figure, tall and way too thin, unfolding itself like some messed up spider. The head came last, tilting up slow, and I saw these hollow eyes, black, empty holes lock onto me. My whole body went numb, and I swear it was listening to me breathe, just standing there by the bed, swaying a little like it wasn't sure what to do next. The room was freezing now, and that sour dirt smell from outside was choking me, pouring off this thing. I wanted to swing the bat, run, anything, but I was stuck, staring at it while it stared back. Then it took a step silent, no sound on the floor, and my legs finally woke up. I bolted for the door, slamming it shut behind me, and I could hear it shift, like it was turning to follow. The house wasn't mine anymore, it was its, and I was just trapped in it. I ran down the hallway, my socks sliding on the wood, and I could feel it behind me, not loud, not chasing, just there, like it knew I couldn't get far. The walls seemed tighter now, the paneling bulging in spots like the house was swelling up, and that single bulb flickered again, throwing jagged shadows everywhere. I hit the living room and spun around, bat up, ready to swing at anything that moved, but the hallway was empty, just that dark stretch leading back to my room. My chest was burning, and I was gasping, trying to listen over my own ragged breathing. Then I heard it, a soft shuffle, like bare feet on the floor, coming from the hall. My eyes locked on the doorway, and I saw it again, that tall, bony thing, easing out of the shadows, head tilted like it was curious. The streetlight from the window hit it just enough to show its face. No mouth, just those black pits for eyes, and my knees almost gave out. The bat felt useless in my hands, like it wouldn't do a damn thing against whatever this was. I backed up, tripping over the coffee table, and it just watched me, swaying like it was waiting for me to crack. I threw myself toward the front door, fumbling with the lock, my fingers slipping on the cold metal. The shuffle got closer, slow, steady, and I could feel the thing stared, drilling into my back, like it was right behind me. The air was thick with that stench now, so bad I gagged, and the cold was biting into my skin, making my hands shake worse. I got the lock undone and yanked the door open, expecting to see it lunging at me. But when I turned, it was gone, no figure, no sound, just the empty living room and that humming starting up again, low and steady. I stumbled onto the porch, the night air hitting me like a punch, and slammed the door shut, locking it from the outside with my spare key. My heart was hammering, and I kept waiting for the knob to turn, for that thing to try getting out, but it didn't. The house just sat there, dark and quiet, like it had swallowed whatever was inside. I didn't care, ran to my car, parked crooked in the driveway, and locked myself in, hands gripping the wheels so tight they hurt. It was over, I told myself, but I couldn't stop shaking. I sat in my car for what felt like forever, staring at the house through the windshield, waiting for something, anything to happen. The windows were black, no movement, no lights, just this squat, ugly building that didn't look like home anymore. My breath fogged up the glass, and I kept wiping it away, half expecting to see that thing pressed against the window, those empty eyes staring out. Nothing moved, though the porch light didn't even flicker, just hung there dead like always. My phone was still inside, on the couch, but no way was I going back for it, not then. Not ever, if I could help it. I started the engine, hands still trembling, and peeled out, the tires crunching gravel, loud enough to wake the neighbors. That smell was stuck in my nose, though, and the cold clung to me, like the house had sunk its claws in deep. I kept checking the rear view, paranoid that thing would be loping down the road after me, but it was just empty streetlights and shadows. I didn't feel safe, not even a mile away. Kept thinking it was still with me somehow. I ended up at a gas station a few blocks over, parked under the brightest lights I could find, and called the cops from a payphone. Yeah, one of those still exists. I told them someone broke in, that I saw a guy in my room. Because how do you explain that thing without sounding unhinged? They met me back at the house, and I stayed in the car while they checked it out, 2 officers with flashlights, poking around like it was no big deal. They came back saying it was clear, no forced entry, no footprints, nothing messed up inside. My phone was right where I left it, battery dead, and the bed was empty, no dust disturbed under it. I didn't buy it. I know what I saw, what I felt, but they just shrugged and told me to lock up better next time. I crashed at a buddy's place after, too freaked to stay home, and I kept replaying it. The doorbell, the knocks, that thing under my bed. The cops didn't find it because it wasn't some guy, it was part of the house, tied to it, and I'd been sleeping over it for months without knowing. That thought still makes my skin crawl. I haven't gone back to the house much since that night, just once, to grab some clothes and my laptop. And even then, I went in daylight with my buddy waiting in the car. The place looked normal, same old dump with its sagging roof and cracked siding, but I couldn't shake the feeling it was watching me. The hallway felt too long, the bedroom too small, and I kept my eyes off the bed, didn't even glance under it. Everything was quiet, no hums or scrapes, just the usual creaks of an old house. But it didn't matter, I was sweating the whole time, jumping at every little sound. I got out fast, locked the door, and told my roommate I'm done with the lease. He thinks I'm overreacting. Says it was probably a nightmare or some creep who slipped out before the cops showed. But he didn't see that thing unfold from under the bed, didn't feel it stare. I've been crashing on couches since, checking locks like a maniac, and I still wake up some nights thinking I hear that shuffle again. The house is still there, waiting for the next tenant, and I wonder if it'll pull the same crap on them. The weirdest part is how it just stopped, no buildup, no fade out, just terror 1 minute and nothing the next. After I drove off, it was like the house hit pause, and I've got no clue why. No more doorbells, no knocks, no whispers in the dark it let me go, or got bored, or whatever the hell it does. I've got no proof, just a shaky memory, and this gnawing paranoia that won't quit. Sometimes I think I hear that hum when I'm falling asleep, or catch a whiff of that sour dirt stink, but it's gone when I snap awake. I don't know what that thing was, some ghost, some squatter, something worse, but it was real. And it was in my house. I can't explain it, and I don't think I ever will. It happened, it ended, and I'm left jumpy as hell with no answers. If you're renting around here, check under your bed first. Trust me on that one.